Well, hello and good morning to our listeners from around the world. This is another great episode of This Morning with Soulivity, broadcasting live from our studio in Washington, D.C., and on KMED 1490 AM in Southern California. My name is Brian Wesley Johnson, and I'm so glad you're here with us. I'm joined today by my very special friends and TV hosts, Sheila Applegate and Dr. Chanel DeGuzman. Good morning to both of you. How are you?
Good
Good morning.
morning.
Good morning, Brian.
I love
Love
that. That
it.
was
Good
a
morning, listeners.
I know, beautiful choral like good morning. I love that. Listen, I'm so excited again because this is another great hot topics day. But before we do that, I just want to remind everyone that is listening in that listen, we want you engaged. We want your questions, we want your comments, we want your thoughts. If you're live with us on Facebook or YouTube, just post whatever you want to say to us about what's going on in your world, including like where you're coming from and about our topics right to the chat, and we'll bring you on in and get you engaged. Um, Again, let us know where you're listening from because we really want to know that too. Like especially if you're out of the country. You ready to get started, ladies?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
All right. You know, I was reading this beautiful article the other day about the COVID pandemic, and it was talking about like, the shutdowns and things like that that were happening. And I was thinking, wow, we've really come a long way, right? I mean,
Yeah.
schools were closed and people, were told to stay in their homes. But then my mind kind of wondered about over that period of time, what were the effects, right? I mean, we know that we vaccines were developed to help lower the hospitalization rates, so that there was less stress on the medical system. But what else happened? And so I found another great article, which is from the World Health Organization on the impact of COVID-19 on our mental health cannot be made light of. And this was published in June of 2022. So this is a fairly recent article. And here's a passage that really grabbed me. One of the biggest global crises in generations, the COVID-19 pandemic has had severe and far-reaching repercussions for health systems, economies, and societies. And then it goes on to say this: as people grapple with these health, social, and economic impacts, mental health has been widely affected. Plenty of us became more anxious, but for some, COVID 19 has sparked or amplified much more serious mental health problems. A great number of people have reported psychological distress and symptoms of depression, anxiety, or post traumatic stress. And there has been worrying signs of more widespread suicidal thoughts and behaviors, including among healthcare workers. And so I thought to myself, I said, did I feel overwhelmed during this time? And the answer was a definite yes. I did feel that way sometimes. How about the two of you? Sheila, did you feel overwhelmed?
Absolutely. I think it's normal that everyone felt overwhelmed at some point during the process. There was beautiful times and we went through huge stressful moments. And for me, it really put a toll on my physical health.
Wow. Wow. What about you, Dr. Chanel? Did you get overwhelmed at times?
So I'm going to be the deviant
But of
and
course,
say
hey.
I wasn't overwhelmed, Sheila. I honestly, because I lived my life what I consider on the run, I was always out and about,
Mhm.
always doing something, always had some place to be. Being at home, even though unfortunately, due to the circumstance, but I did not feel overwhelmed. I loved being at home, and it brought our family even closer. I had 2 teenagers at home at the time, but I also have to acknowledge that I sat in a privileged position because I
Mm,
could work from home. I had
hmm.
2 teenagers. One was, both were in their rooms and they didn't necessarily need me to help them log on and monitor them in their schoolwork.
Mhm.
And, I had a husband at home as well to help cook and help just manage the household. So I'll be very, very honest, I didn't
Mhm.
feel overwhelmed. Now, I did have reactions. I
Okay.
will tell you that the first time I sat down and watched my first Netflix, what do you call it? Where you
You binge?
Binge.
binge, my first binge, was what was that show in the, oh gosh, I can't think of it, but it was a show that I binged, my first binge, and then I ate. I ate nonstop because my daughter baked, and so she baked everything, and I ate everything she baked.
Wow.
So that was my experience, and I know that's not probably the common experience, but I feel incredibly blessed, for that time in terms of being at home.
Right, and I guess the beauty of what you were experiencing is maybe something that we'll be talking about later, but that you still had some level of anxiety, right? There was still a little bit of stress here and there. Um, and that was okay, right? That you were able to cope with it in a beautiful way. Sheila, when you were saying that that your stress was more physical, can you
Yeah.
give us a little bit more about that?
Yeah. So everything that you said, Dr. Chanel, uh, I already worked from home. So that part was easy for me. My kids, one was already on the West Coast and I'm in New York. And then my youngest child moved in the beginning of COVID to the West Coast to go to school. So there was that anxiety of them being away. My mom was in a nursing home, so we couldn't see her. Then she got COVID and died. So it's like all of these things were impactful, and I couldn't be with my sisters during that time. So there's all that stress. And I really felt like I have a mental health background. I'm a therapist and a spiritual guide. So I was navigating it all in really beautiful ways, but my body just really, the nervous system really was accelerated and it brought out my autoimmune disorder to a heightened state.
Wow.
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 Mhm.
Dr. Chanel, how did your kids deal with this? Did they feel any stressful times
I
from this?
I'll be honest, Brian, I honestly do not recall them being
Mm.
stressful. I recall them being teenagers and being recluse in their room, like they are now, although one is already out of the home. But yeah, I don't think it was overly stressful. I believe their school was super supportive
Wow.
and they did the check-ins, they followed up offline, off Zoom. And so I don't think that they did, but I do want to just go back and say, Brian, you mentioned about maybe me having some anxiety. I can tell you that the eating,
Mm.
that stress, perhaps stress eating was to comfort me. And I needed to
Mhm.
be comforted for some reason because prior to COVID, I ate no sweets, no chocolate, no cakes, no pies, no cookies. And then in the lockdown, I ate all of that and more. I
Now,
mean,
y'all, the COVID-19,
oh, it was
that
real.
COVID-19 was real
It
because
was
I know I
real.
had that too. Me and my wife both had that. Um, because we were both able to work from home, like the two of you, and the TV's on. We had plenty of food.
Oh, yeah.
Knock on wood, thank the Lord.
Thank God.
Um, but at the same time, we weren't moving.
Right.
you know, you just, I mean, because even if, we both, we try to both exercise and that kind of thing, but just the commute that burns calories, right? You're getting up, you get into your car, you're walking, you're doing things.
Well,
Um,
absolutely, Brian, and this is
yeah.
how I know that the COVID thing is, that 19 was rose because as soon as the lockdown was over, that weight that I picked up, let's say 10 pounds, immediately was gone. So
Mm-hmm.
immediately
Exactly.
without hesitation. But Brian, I do want to say, and by the way, it was Ozark. That was my first binge.
Oh, Ozark. Oh man, that was a great show.
That was a great show. But I do want to acknowledge that I did gain empathy, Brian and Sheila, because at the time
Mm.
I wasn't a small business owner. I was an employee. I was a director, and I had
Mhm.
employees. I had teachers who then almost, were losing their jobs, and we had to come up with a plan to keep their jobs, and we did that. And then when they were teaching from their homes, some of the teachers had little kids, not like my
Right.
teenagers. They had the little ones where
Oh
they had to
man.
monitor their schooling online and also teach our kids in our programs. And so they would not be able to do homework or check homework until late at night when their kids went to bed. And
Wow.
so I gained a greater appreciation for those who had little ones at home. And we know a lot of women had to not only do, childcare, but increase home responsibilities. And so it was very stressful for a lot of women. And a lot of women, as you all know, left the workforce. And it was a very trying time for some of my teachers. So I definitely increased my empathy. And I'll
Mhm.
also tell you, I did a listening session with women about their effects of COVID. And a lot of them talked about they increased their wine drinking.
Yeah. Yep.
So alcoholism did go up,
Mhm.
and as well as drugs, and as well, Brian and Sheila, spousal abuse and child
Mhm.
abuse
Oh.
also
Right.
increased during the
Right.
lockdown. So I definitely increased my empathy overall for people who were in situations that were not as favorable because of the lockdown.
Well, that's why we wanted to talk about this today. That's why it kind of hit me earlier, that even before COVID-19, um, America specifically was already still dealing with the mental health crisis. Um, there's, I think that there's this stigma that you're just supposed to tough it out, and that you're not supposed to seek support and help. And so we wanted to make sure that we had a program today that talked more about this. So I want to first say that and say to both of you, thank you for being here, because I think we've got the perfect two people to talk about this with. And so, we're coming up on our first break. And I think what I want to do is, with both of you, give our audience some defined ways of how to identify, like, when are you going into overwhelm, when are you getting stressed out, when are you getting anxious, especially when it's from negative emotions, because I think that that can spiral out of control and that you can go into depression, um, or that kind of thing. And so we want to make sure we're helping people. Does that sound good to you both?
Absolutely. Yeah.
All right. All right, everybody. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be back in about 2 minutes. See you soon. Have you ever asked the question, if I was to be anything, what would I be? Regardless of money, regardless of status, beyond popularity and fame. Living your passion, feeling your life has purpose. Soulivity is a space to nurture that which lives in all of us. A place where work can become play, and doing what we love creates the dreams of a lifetime.
Hi there, Sheila Applegate here with some exciting news. I've joined the incredible Soulivity team as the host of the new Consciously Awesome live show, where I will be sharing insights to help you discover your full brilliance and claim the vibrant life you deserve. So tune in every Wednesday right here on Soulivity TV to join the fun. And remember to subscribe to the channel so that you don't miss a single episode. Have an awesome week, and I will see you on Wednesday.
And we are back with This Morning with Soulivity. I'm joined by my beautiful hosts, Sheila and Dr. Chanel. Good morning, ladies.
Good morning.
And we are talking about our mental health and wellness today, but specifically about how to deal with feeling overwhelmed. I know many times we or even a loved one are totally engulfed in in stressful overwhelm, but we aren't even conscious of it. So I wanted to kind of talk about that a little bit. Have either of you ever had that kind of situation? Not necessarily with COVID, but where you feel like um, you're just overwhelmed in terms of stress?
Yeah, I would say that happens. For me, I mean, I try to catch it early, but when it overcomes, for me, I'll be edgier. I can notice that I'm snapping at people more. I'm
Mm.
not in my zen, you know.
Right, right.
And I get a lot of, like I said, physical energy, like running down my vagus nerve. It feels like electricity. So I got really active um, when that happens, as far as needing to move a lot.
Wow. What about you, Dr. Chanel?
Well, I'm thinking about this, Brian, and I want to call this self-inflicted overwhelm. And I totally signed up for it, Brian. When I went to get my master's degree, I signed up for 2 master's degrees. So I went for one for college student personnel at Bowling Green State University. And once I got there, I realized, you know what? If I'm going to be working with students, I need to be able to relate to them. And I'm sure I'm going to be counseling them. So I went ahead and added a master's of guidance and counseling,
Wow.
simultaneously
Oh
doing
my
my master's of
God.
college student personnel.
Are you
So one
serious?
semester, Brian and Sheila, one semester, I completed 18 credits in a summer semester. Now you
Wow.
might,
In
if
a
you do
woo,
9, right, that's like double full time, like 9
absolutely.
is full
You don't
time,
have
but
that much time.
summer,
It's like what, 6,
right.
8 weeks, something like that?
Exactly. I was walking a tight rope. Nothing could happen, not one blip. That was overwhelmed, and I just plunged through it. I did what I had to do, and I got through it. Obviously, I wouldn't recommend that for no one, for anyone, but that was self-imposed overwhelm, and I've now realized that I have to make more conscious decisions about the commitments that I take on, the activities, and then ask myself why, or, could I have added that on later? Not at the same time.
Mhm, 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 mhm. Well, that's why I wanted to get into this, right? Where I think sometimes we're in this and we don't really figure out that we're in stress until we're there. And
Mhm.
so, Sheila, when what are some of the ways that you identify that you're in that place? I mean, do you have like a process or do you have like a coping mechanism?
I think I do have a very strong coping mechanism, and that gets me through difficult times. So I just go from the next thing to the next, and I almost compartmentalize
Right,
what I'm doing. But I also have, I'm a meditation teacher. Meditation is a huge part of my life. Nature is my lifeline. So going out into nature, and this deep level of being able to see things from multiple perspectives. So that can drive me a long time.
right,
Going
right.
into COVID, the years prior to that, I was navigating my both of my parents in late stages of Alzheimer's and dementia with constant, never knew when one was going to ring, and I had to run to the emergency room. And you get through it, and it's the after for me when it hits. It's
Right.
it's when things are calm again that I let it all out and just feel the feels.
Exactly. There was a recent heartbreaking story in the news last year about Stephen Boss. And Stephen
Mhm.
Boss was known as Twitch. He was a dancer and he was a DJ on the Ellen DeGeneres show. And he transitioned suddenly via suicide at 40, y'all. He was only 40 years
Yeah.
old.
Mhm.
Um, and from most people's standards, I mean, he had it all. He had a fantastic family, he had money, he had fame, and yet there was something else happening with him. And we're not going to dive down. We're not going to question what that is because that is his story. Um, but I brought Twitch up just like a dear friend of our families that also transitioned through a suicide, and nobody still to this day can figure out why. That this is an important thing that we all do on a consistent basis to assess, okay, are we in stress right now?
Right.
You
Mhm.
know?
Right.
Like Dr. Chanel, you were talking about things that you were doing, but before that even happened, you had something inside of you that was saying, okay, something I need that I'm in overwhelm right now, right? Like I'm being stressed. I'm doing these double masters programs and I've got to like deal with this.
Right,
And
right.
so,
Yeah, and those
how
are
did you
those.
know? I mean, was it just because some people don't even know, right?
Well, that's the thing, right? In all of our growth and our journey for expansion evolution is to be conscious.
Mhm.
And I think, Sheila, you mentioned it just nonstop. I was literally nonstop, one thing
Right.
after the next. And sometimes you're not conscious of it and you're moving through it and you are going like a locomotive. And until sometimes you hit a brick wall, you crash, you have a crisis. Oftentimes, that's the first time that you realize, "Oops, I think I
Right.
overdid it," right? But some of us are programmed, and that was certainly my case. I had been on the run, running from childhood trauma all my, secondary, and then young adulthood life. So I was completely unconscious of it. I just ran, and, the 2 masters, this was just in my DNA, and then right after that came the PhD, so like, I never stopped, but then I did stop, so thank God I woke up.
Exactly. And so what I want to do now is, I want to remind people that you can get into overwhelm from good things that are happening in your life too. So,
Right.
Dr. Chanel, this was a good thing that was happening. You were,
Exactly.
pursuing this degree and you said, "Hey, I'm going to do this and I can do it." And you got into it and we're like, "Oh, holy crap. This is like a lot." And so we're going to take another quick break. And when we come back, we're going to talk a little bit about how good things can also stress you out and what to do about that. So we'll be back in about 2 minutes, everybody.
Are you ready to take that first step towards true, unwavering inner happiness? Are you like thousands of people who have everything they need, not want, but need, and still can't seem to find happiness and fulfillment in their lives? If so, the Steps to Happiness show is for you. On my show, you will learn about the principles and practices that lead to true inner happiness. Because guess what? It isn't found in our external environment, but within ourselves instead. Together with my guests, we will explore the latest physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual well-being practices. And together, we'll advise you on the actionable steps you can take towards a happier, more fulfilled, authentic life. So I invite you to join me each week on Soulivity TV on the Steps to Happiness show with me, Teresa Greco.
You can find all the Satana products at our Go shop on Soulivity at go.soulivity.com now. Shop for beauty products, skincare, hair care. It is all there at the Go shop. Go shop Soulivity.
And welcome back to This Morning with Soulivity. We are talking about our mental health and wellness today, specifically about dealing with feeling overwhelmed. But now we want to do this with a little bit of a twist, because Dr. Chanel, you were just talking about your journey in, pursuing, your master's degrees. And this relates to something that I think people don't talk about, and that is how good things that are in or can come into our lives that can also lead to stress and overwhelm. And so I already know that you've experienced this, but Sheila, have you experienced this as well? Uh-oh. Sheila, are you there?
Sorry about that. I am back. I had a
Okay.
little for
No
a minute.
problem.
That was some overwhelm.
Yeah, you just caused
Perfect
overwhelm.
example.
Yeah, when we're talking about this, of course, career always comes up to mind for me too, because I love my career, and whenever, great opportunities come my way, I say yes, and sometimes overload what I can handle. But I also thought about parenting, because to me,
Hello.
parenting has been the greatest gift of my life. And it's my best memories. It's the most important. I mean, still is, but they're adults now. And yet, when I think back of it, the overwhelm in each moment sometimes could be a lot, right? Like that's being on every minute.
Wow. Yeah, I'm thinking about that as well. I mean, love our son, and there's at times at which, the beauty of him being here is just like, okay, I need a break.
Right.
And I know, Dr. Shen, you couldn't possibly think that way, right? I mean, I'm just kidding with you. I'm just kidding with you.
Right. I'm telling you, and I want you to finish, but I'm telling you, before I had kids, I used to think, actually, a girlfriend and I were I don't know if we were at a baby shower or something, and we were both saying, why do people have kids and they want to give them over to the grandparents? Like, why is that? And of course, now that I have kids, their Nana is invaluable. Their titas and uncles, they are invaluable. And yes, we do give them over to those folks.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
Yeah, just side note, we have a new grandbaby now, and she just turned 1 last week, which was fantastic. And it is a beautiful thing to be a grandparent. I just, rile them up and send them right on back, But again, we're talking about these good things that are in our lives, where a lot of good comes into our lives. May it be even like a job promotion, where you've been wanting this thing for so long, it's now here, and you're getting into feeling stressed and overwhelmed by, okay, what does this really mean? Right?
Right.
What does this mean for my life? What does this mean for the things that I'm going to be responsible for? And so that can be also stressful. Um, Sheila, well, and now all three of us, we're all entrepreneurs,
Yes.
Yes.
right? And so, Sheila, I know you and I have talked about that. Can you talk a little bit about that with our audience, like some of the stressors that you have from being an entrepreneur, which is a good thing, right?
It is a good thing. And I left the mainstream workforce over 20 years ago. So it's kind of my natural state, but it's all on me. And luckily, I do love what I do, but financially, it's not like I know that there's a steady paycheck coming every week. It's, there's waves and ebbs. And then there's the fact that it's always over my head. You know,
Right.
if I work through the advantages, I work when I want to work, right? But the disadvantages, there's always something, and I can't turn that computer off. I mean, I could, but
Hmm.
it's still going to be in my head that it's on me, right? So turning that computer off and walking away and never thinking about it again happens very rarely for me.
Wow. What about you, Dr. Chanel?
Well, Sheila, I admire and I knew you had been in business for quite some time. I've been in business for 2 years for myself. And yes, at times it is overwhelming. You can ask my husband, Gary. Um, the fact of doing this, like you said, Sheila, by yourself, at least initially, I don't have a dedicated team. I do have a network, but everything is on me. So in this initial
Mhm.
transition into entrepreneurship, I am doing everything. I am doing the invoicing, I'm doing the contracting, I'm implementing the contracting, I am, doing the networking events, I'm doing the prospecting, I'm doing it all and by myself. So just last night, Sheila and Brian know that I have a workshop after our broadcast today. And so I was at the office really late last night, just buttoning up a few things. And I do that by myself, or if I come into the office on the weekend, I'm like, "Oh my gosh, I'm by myself." And a lot of times, no one is in the office. I work in a shared office space. No one's there because maybe they're in business longer than me, and they don't have to come in on the weekends, but I still come in on the weekends, and it can be lonely. I don't feel lonely, but it can be lonely in terms of working alone, and it's all on you. So that can feel overwhelming at times. Absolutely.
Wow. Well, I'm glad that we're talking about this because I think these are things that are like the unseen and unspoken things that happen. I mean, why would we talk about stressful things that are good, right?
Right.
And so, I wanna make sure that we give our audience some tips on, you know what to do, how to deal with this. And Sheila, you and I were kind of talking before the show, and you have this wonderful idea of people going into coping with stress with fun, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so I really love that. I really, really love that. I mean, Dr. Chanel, you were doing this during COVID, and I think you've got some great tips as well. So
Mhm.
we're going to take another break, and when we come back, we're going to be talking about how to put fun in your life. But need to understand there's a difference between fun, happiness, and joy. So we'll be back in about 2 minutes. 6 years ago, when I started Soulivity, my vision was to support everyone in improving their life through the discovery of their passion and purpose, so they could become the best version of themselves, to battle fear and ignorance, and create a better world today. Get inspired to live your passion and purpose. Visit Soulivity.com now. Soulivity Magazine and Beyond Words Publishing want to remind you about the importance of continuing to follow public health guidelines to protect yourself, your loved ones, and your community. Please continue to wear a mask, wash your hands, and watch your distance. Please visit these sites for further information about how to stay safe from COVID-19 into the new year. Remember, love protects us. We work so hard sometimes. Isn't it time for a break? Take a walk or enjoy nature, or maybe a leap or a ride, or even a dip.
spending time with a friend, or some time alone. Whatever it is, always spend time growing and learning with a Soulivity weekend. Every Saturday at 10 a.m. Eastern, right here on Soulivity TV.
And we're back with more of This Morning with Soulivity, and we're talking about our mental health and wellness and dealing with overwhelm. We want to turn to giving people some tips, and we had a great idea from Sheila about how to add fun as a way to cope. But Sheila, you wanted to make sure that people understood that there's a difference between fun, happiness, and even joy. So what do you mean by that?
Yeah, this is kind of a new concept for me. I saw it in an NPR article recently, and the article is talking about the subtle difference. I'm all about subtleties. It's talking about the subtle difference between fun and joy and happiness. And it is associating with the idea that as we come out of COVID now, we have to deal with fatigue, depression, nervousness, everything we've been talking about, not just from COVID, but politics, racial, discord, and all of the other violence in the world. So they reference this Mike Rucker, who wrote a book, The Fun Habit, How to Discipline Pursuit of Joy and Wonder. And he writes, happiness is a state of mind, but fun is something you can do. It doesn't require education, money, or power. So that's the difference. It's like, okay, it's abstract to say I'm in happiness, or I want happiness or joy, but it's concrete to write on your calendar things that you're going to do that make you feel fun. And that includes laughter and just letting yourself be with other people.
So to that point, Dr. Chanel, how do you have fun?
I have fun by dancing. I think, Sheila, you are a dancer too in that regard.
Dance,
I'm a dancer.
You're a dancer. We don't want to leave you out. Absolutely. Isn't it funny? Not surprising that we all love to dance, right? I think that frees my spirit. And I want to give you a quote from my daughter who helped my son. He was going to a dance and he didn't know how to dance. So he was asking us, well, how do I dance? What am I supposed to do? And my daughter, out of the blue, said, find the beat in your heart and dance to that beat.
Wow.
I thought, what am I gonna do? And do you know, guys, I took that quote and I put it in my book, Come Back to Yourself, Love Life, Live Free. That is a quote. So my daughter's in my book. I just think that's phenomenal. We have to find what brings us joy and happiness, like you're saying, Sheila, and whatever makes our soul dance. That's what we should be spending more time doing. That's what we should spend our time doing. And so I'll dance around the house and Gary will come and join me, and he doesn't dance like me. So he makes me laugh even more because he's not dancing kind of right, but he's doing what he can. And I absolutely love it. And it just makes me laugh to no end. And so just finding ways to let loose and let go. Oh my gosh, can we let go a little bit?
Sheila, how do you have fun?
Well, dancing, nature's always my go-to, but being around people, and I love to laugh. And so goofiness or, a string of jokes, looking at the world's bizarreness, whatever it is that brings us laughter. I really think that almost every single day, I, at some point, get into a giggle or a laugh that, reaches the belly. So that's my go-to.
Well, you guys already stole my thunder with the dance thing. All right, but that's great. We can all dance. We can all dance together.
Absolutely.
Listening to music, good music, it just turns my heart on. I mean, I'm a musician as well, so it doesn't matter what kind of music it is. Any genre, as long as it's something that I like. And it just lights my heart. And so, Sheila, in this book, you said that there was, when we talked offline, you said there were a couple of great tips for
Yeah.
about adding fun into your life. Can you share those?
Yes. So a couple of things the articles say is um, find a fun magnet. I like that.
Mm.
And
Oh
that's
man.
to sit down and come up with 3 or 4 memories when you had a lot of fun. And then look for the common thread and which people are involved and what
Mm.
activities you were doing, because that's a way to reconnect if you've lost the connection to what brings fun into your life. And then make sure you do those activities, right? They say to put it on your calendar and,
Wow.
you know, realize that it's as important as working out or the work that you do, because it improves your health and it can reduce the risk of heart disease and diabetes. So mark your calendar, whether it's a specific event or just that this is my fun time.
Mhm.
And then
Mhm.
they say what everyone says, unplug, but they say, no, really, because it's an interaction with people that most people find most fun. I'll add animals because I'm cool with animals.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's that interaction with life in the real time that brings fun to people more often. And then on that same note, share it. Share the fun, because when you're with more people, it'll amplify things.
Mhm.
So I
Mhm.
know when I'm watching TV with someone and it's funny and they're laughing too, I will laugh twice as hard. As in, if I'm alone, I'll just kind of do it in my head, you know?
It's funny you were talking about, sharing and interacting with life. I couldn't help but think about uh, our cat Minnie,
Yeah.
who reminds us to do that constantly throughout the day. She will come over and be like, "Okay, it's time to connect," and I'm like, "Oh, okay," and then we'll start connecting, and then it's like I feel better, you know.
Absolutely.
Because that's fun for me. When I think about it, it really, really is fun. I was also thinking about maybe on another show we can talk about how partners can have fun together and
Yeah.
amplify
Mhm.
that aspect of it, because I think that that's another important piece. Wow, this was great.
Yeah.
Yes.
This was really, really
It was
great. Um,
fun.
I know, right? Well, listen, everybody, we're gonna take another break, and you know, kind of wrap this up, but talk a little bit more about how we can support you in you becoming less stressed, less overwhelmed, putting fun in your life with support from our beautiful host here, because that's what it's all about. It's all about us empowering you every single day to become the best person that you can possibly be and have that best life today. So we're going to take a quick break and we'll be back in, I think, about 2 minutes or so. So we'll be back with more this morning with Soulivity. There, this is Brian with Soulivity.com. I want to share some exciting news about our new Aspire Academy by Soulivity. Now, you probably want to know what the Aspire Academy by Soulivity is. Well, it exclusively connects you with people around the globe and who share the intense desire to improve themselves and create a better life for themselves today. There's classes, there's workshops, there's live events, and even more exclusively just for you. You see, I wanted you to have a safe space where you could grow, you could learn, and it would empower you in all aspects of your life, including your mind, your body, and your soul. So how do you get started? Well, it is so easy. First of all, the best part, joining Aspire Academy is absolutely free. Just click on the Join Now button, sign up, and begin your journey. As a special part of this invitation to you, there are some free courses that are available for you to try from our amazing roster of coaches and collaborators. It's our way of saying thank you for all of your support and being with us along our journey of expansion. I hope you enjoyed the Aspire Academy by Soulivity today. Start the process. Learn more about your passion, your purpose, and how to live a higher quality life. And we are back with more from This Morning with Soulivity, and I'm joined by Sheila and Dr. Chanel. And you guys have some really cool things that you're offering our audience. And I'm going to go to you, Dr. Chanel, because, you got some great things to offer.
Well, thank you, Brian. So I want to just give a quick quote, and it just says, for every external obstacle, there is an internal solution. So I am committed to working with highly successful women to overcome external obstacles by looking at internal solutions. And we do that through one-on-one coaching, and we start that with a free coaching session so that we
Wow.
can find out what your obstacles are and how to come up with that solution. So Brian will give that information, I believe, yes, in the chat, and you can reach out and schedule a strategy session with me, and we can see where you are and where you want to go and what is getting in the way.
Wow. And what are some of the things what you're going to be going over in that coaching session?
Based on where they're at, we figure out what their internal struggle is, what is preventing them, any barriers that are getting in the way. We're looking at patterns that they keep going over and getting the same results, just at a different level. So it's really personalized, Brian, to really figure out what is standing in the way. And then more importantly, or just as important, figuring out what they're really afraid of, because we all want something. And a lot of times the women are afraid to go after what they really want. So we create a vision of who they want to be so they can have the things that they want and do the things that bring them the most joy that we've been talking about. So that's
Wow.
essentially the process.
That's fantastic. Thank you for that. And Sheila, you have an ongoing deal on that is talking about soul connections. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, I have individual soul connection sessions that help you to connect deeper with your soul energy, to open up to higher consciousness, and to bring that into your daily life so that you can strengthen your relationships, your career, everything that brings you that joy, that happiness in life, but adds a little bit more magic to it and wonder. So in the soul connection sessions, we do either a meditation, or I can open up to the divine energy and help you connect to loved ones who've crossed over, because I think that helps us live a brighter life here when we know that there's no end, and also to your spiritual guidance.
Wow. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Listen, we want to remind you that we want you to follow us on social media. You can, follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube. And you can go to our landing page for our This Morning with Soulivity page. It's at soulivity.com/this-morning. While you're there, please sign up for our mailing list, because you'll be able to learn more about upcoming events and even get exclusive content and maybe be part of a giveaway, because we also give away stuff. Wow, this was a great show.
This
I
was
enjoyed it.
This was a lot of fun. And you guys made, talking about feeling overwhelmed fun.
That's important. We should all have fun.
Exactly.
Great
Also,
tips too, everybody. Great tips. Let's just take some of those away.
I also want to remind people that we have a very special partner in MoonPod, the new generation of the beanbag chair, which is something that I think all of us, when we were younger, depending upon how old you are, remember. But go to our thismorning.com/this morning page, and you can find out about some exclusive deals. I think there's 10% off their already discounted pricing if you click the link on that page, and you can get into MoonPod. Also today, we're going to be having another episode of this morning's The Steps to Happiness with Teresa Greco. That's happening today at noon Eastern or 9 a.m. Pacific. You can always watch the replay on Soulivity TV at soulivity.com. So don't forget about watching that as well. That's going to be something really, 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 really cool. I think she's going to have another wonderful guest. She has great interviews and that are just so empowering. So, guys, I think that's it. I think we're done for today. What do you
Yes. Well, great moderation, Brian. You're a great moderator.
That's what I do here. That's what I do.
We should do this again someday.
I
Yeah,
know.
sometime.
Maybe tomorrow. Maybe we can do it
Yeah.
tomorrow. Yeah, we'll be back every Thursday and Friday on KMET 1490 AM. Or you can catch all of our shows by going to soulivity.com and listening to the rebroadcast there. So on behalf of myself here at Soulivity, thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time.
See you.
This work is subject to copyright owned by Affinity Global LLC. Any reproduction or republication of all or part of this is expressly prohibited unless Affinity Global LLC has explicitly granted its prior written consent. All other rights reserved.